getting to work with Dave in person when you did, was there anything just, in the concept of music in general that he taught you just from how you got to see his approach and the way he worked?
Yeah, the biggest thing was when Dave listened to playback, he was like a kid. He would be sitting there swinging and snapping his fingers as if he'd never heard these guys before.
It was a take he just did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was like, he was joyful, like beyond belief joyful. It was like, wow, that's, and if you do read the history on Dave, he was a very successful musician, but he had some real crap happen to him in the beginning of his career between his record label being stolen from him, all these other things. I mean, he had some pretty down times.
I'm not aware.
Yeah, but it's like it all looks like it was all roses the whole time. And yeah, he was a real star and did well, obviously, because he connected with so many people. But it was the joyfulness of it, and it's the one thing that I wish more people could bring in, especially when they're in the studio. They can do that a little easier sometimes in live performance because there's an audience there to at least kick them in the head a little bit, hopefully by liking what they're doing.
Yep.
But man, you might as well like what you're doing.
Well, it's also the stress if you're spending it.
That's true too.
But he probably wasn't in that situation.
No. But when he was on Fantasy, he probably was because he'd started the label, and then when he went to go out on tour, long story short, he basically, the accountant who wound up being John Fogerty's manager, which you probably know some of those stories that John Fogerty in Creedence Clearwater got sued over and over and all kinds of stuff by his manager, even losing his name in basically every dollar he ever made in the band. Sued by the same guy who stole the label from Dave. Oh. He comes back and I have no label. So it was George Avakian says, well, Dave, come over to CBS and record for us, and it was like, we'll work something out. Because at that point, they didn't really know if they were a jazz label or what they were. They were doing, Perry Como and all that stuff. And he wound up making an amazing deal with them where the family got everything back when Dave passed. And that never happens. No. So, in fact, the lawyers who are long dead, the new lawyers were reading it going, what?
Yeah.
So he stepped in it, but along the way, there were a lot of downsides. But yeah, joyful musician. Chick was the same way. I can't think of a person who just was more thrilled to sit at an instrument and play. And you just go, wow. It's not all about, we all have our friends who beat themselves up constantly. and you go, maybe a little less of that and just letting go. And
who also talks about that a lot is Vinny. Vinny Kelly. I don't know. Do you listen to his Breakfast? Breakfast with Vinny.
Yeah.
But he talks about, specifically Chick, being that way and how he learned from that and being able to be in that moment and letting go and just.
First time I met Chick Corea was in 1979 at Creative Music Studio. He came for a concert there with Miroslav, Jack, Anthony Braxton, and Pat Metheny, and Lee Konitz playing together. It was great. It was a wonderful concert. I wanted to meet Chick because he's a hero of mine. I knew Jack already, and I'd actually already met Metheny a couple of times because he was somewhat local. Chick gets off stage. I'm there and going, Mr. Corea, the classic thing. And he all of a sudden starts going, "You're a musician, right?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Bartok string quartets," and he starts going into the.
Kidding.
Literally, he just starts going off about he's been working on the Bartok string quartets, and he's just this incredible excitement. And meanwhile, I'm just like, I'm like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was like wow, he immediately kind of accepted me in some way, and that's the way he would be,
Yeah.
Just very accepting of people, and for whatever reason, he got a vibe that maybe I was serious about what I was trying to do. And
I've said this, and I'll say it again. Great. I've never met a great musician who wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, great, outstanding, brilliant people.
I think that's true.
They want to engage.
Yeah.
If they know that you are open to that, they will have that conversation with you, and they're not mean about it.
Nope.
because I've met some not so nice people in this industry.
Yeah.
And for lack of a better word, industry, but like that doesn't surprise me at all with Chick. I've seen him speak, I've watched him talk many times, and just open.
Dave Schofield. I mean, the list is really endless with that. I mean, some people just feel more zen, like, I did what I did. Those two guys in particular had some kind of joy, as if they were hearing something for the first time that was they didn't even have anything to do with. Like, oh, what a great idea! It's like,
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. And I'm sure they heard when they made a clunker or something, but if they did, it was just part of what it was at that point.
Part of what if you're talking about those people in particular, or Sco or Chick, I don't think they're thinking about themselves and comparing themselves to anybody else.
No.
I think it's just about the music, because that's part of what you could feel bad about.
Imagine being a person like that who basically created part of the vocabulary that everybody else uses. There's two guys right there.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like,